Okay, so this is going to be part 4, and there's 3 things that I wanted to touch upon. Try to keep it brief. So the first one, it's going to be like this. It's going to be grateful, learn to be grateful, realize the value of time, and the fact that you probably have more than what you think and probably less than what you think. I'll explain in a bit. And then also take action and plan ahead. So first of all, learn to be grateful, because sometimes even the little things, the other day I heard my niece say something about like, oh, ice cream. She was so excited about getting ice cream, right? And you think it's kind of funny when you grow up and everything, right? Because there's just other things you got to focus on, work or, school or, I don't know, achievements, whatever it may be, right? And the fact that she sounded so excited about getting ice cream to me was kind of sweet, it seemed kind of, I don't know, it was just really sweet. And I thought, wow, like, I feel like we should never lose the ability to get excited about the little things, right? And truly be grateful for the things that we have in this life. Now I get it, it's different for everybody. And I might have even already talked about being grateful in another video, but it doesn't matter. I'll touch upon it several times. I think it's a good topic. And so I think it's important that, we learn to be grateful for everything that we have. Because sometimes, honestly, even though things might seem rough, and they may be, I'm not saying they're not, I feel like there's always something that you can truly be grateful for, whether it be the relationship with a certain friend of yours, or a girlfriend, a boyfriend, your parents, or a brother, or a sibling, or anything. Or even if you have nobody, there might even be, you could even be grateful for maybe the relationship that you have with yourself, if you've been able to cultivate a good relationship with yourself and you've been able to keep yourself in a good state of mind and good health and everything. Sometimes those are things to be grateful for, right? And maybe, other things such as, maybe you don't have any money or anything, but you paid the bills, you paid what has to be done. It might not be the best situation, right? The best scenario, but regardless, it's something to be grateful for, right? I was talking to a friend the other day who was telling me about like the tough relationship that he had with his parents, and how it sometimes escalated to, a physical altercation where he would have to physically fight, a parent of his or hers or anything. And he wasn't the first person that has told me about that. And, there's other people that I've heard, other people that aren't as close to me, but other people that I've just spoken to that talked about like, how, whether they have a parent in prison and things of that nature and whatnot. And it surprises me. I mean, it's not so much, I guess it does surprise me in a way. Or more so, I guess it just makes me a little sad, because I would wish that they would have loving relationships with their parents, because I think, who wouldn't want to have that, I think I have a fairly good relationship with my parents, and so does my brother and everything. And so I think that it's just something, I think it's a beautiful thing, and I feel that it's something that everybody should have. And so the fact that, it's nothing new, right? The fact that people just aren't able to have something like that, it's sad, because I wish everybody would have that luxury, I'd say, that privilege to be able to have such a loving relationship with their parents. And you know what, even if it isn't with their parents, at least with somebody else. So even if you might not have it with your parents, I still feel that it's very important, and I feel that, the relationship with your parents is something that you can't really replace, whether it be with your father or your mother. But at the same time, always be grateful for any other relationships that you do have, any relationships that you can cultivate, and for so many other things. Sometimes, you might have a car, it might not be the newest or anything like that, but hey, if it gets you to work, that's great. Or if you're not able to get to work, with a vehicle because you don't have one and you have to take the bus, well, hey man, at least you can walk. And I'm not trying to be that person to say, oh, like there's somebody that always has it worse than you. Not at all. But I don't know. At the same time, I think, well, if you're truly struggling and you're really just having a difficulty finding something to be happy about, I mean, like, try to look on the light side, even if you have to kind of look at things on a more negative end first, in order for them to get more positive, if that makes sense. Like, if you look at your situation and think about a worse situation, and then maybe compare it to yours. I know it's probably not the best thing, and this might be something that I might have to touch upon later, because it's probably not the most effective per se, maybe not the most proper, right? But at the end of the day, I just feel that, if you truly pay attention to your situation and you really try to look for the positivity in it, you might be surprised to find that there's a lot more good in it than bad, And obviously this doesn't mean that the presence of bad won't be there. Obviously there has to be. I feel like at any given point there's always going to be something that isn't as greatest and everything. I just feel that it shouldn't be a deal breaker for the most part. There's obviously there's a lot of exceptions to that, and if you are one of those exceptions, whatever it may be that you're going through, I wish you the best in that regard. And I hope that even no matter what it is that you're going through and what you're struggling through, I really do hope that you find either something, someone to be able to be happy about, or at least something, or even if it's just yourself, to pull you through that tough situation, right? So before I let this get too long, like I said, I'll probably touch this subject later on. Another thing that you have to realize is time. I've been realizing that time is valuable, obviously, but then I've also realized that while I sometimes feel that I don't have enough time, not necessarily to do anything, but I feel that I'm running out of time, you know, because you start getting older and everything. At the same time, I also kind of realize, like, hey, you actually have more time than you think. So you have more time than you think because no matter what it is that you do day to day, your days are still going to pass. You know what I'm saying? The time is still going to pass. The day's going to go by, the week, the month, the year, and all that. And before you know it, you know, you'll be, I don't know, if you're 15 or 16, 20, whatever it may be, you'll be 5 years older, 10 years older, whatever. Like, that'll still happen, right? So you might feel pressured because you might be at an age already. Let's say you're 25 or 30, 35, 40, whatever it may be, right? Or I don't know, man. You might be 15 and you already feel that you're pressured, right? But let's say you feel something like that. Okay, that's fine. The thing is, like I said, since the time is still going to pass and you're still going to get to another point in life, hopefully, where you're older, wouldn't it just make sense to say, well, the time's going to keep going. I'm not getting any younger. Might as well at least try to do the things that I want to do and that I feel that I should get done, because no matter what happens, time is still going to pass. You know what I'm saying? It's so odd, but I realized that on certain days, if I don't really do a lot and I just kind of stick to my same old routine, maybe the routine that probably isn't the best, the day goes by really fast. But then on the days that I actually try to change it up and I try to work on something and do this and do that, I usually notice kind of like a domino effect. I go do one thing, then that prompts me to do another, and then another, and then another. And before I realized it, the day actually was a lot longer than I expected it to be, right? But that's because you're actually being proactive. And even if you didn't make the progress that you wanted to make, at least you probably did something within that day. Or at least for me, you know, usually those days I did something for myself that actually helped me get a tiny bit closer to either a goal of mine, or just towards being towards making the following day just a tiny bit easier. And I feel like that's always a win. So in that regard, like I said, it's just something that I've noticed lately. I always feel pressure because I feel I'm running out of time, but then that same pressure kind of stunts me from doing anything sometimes, and the days are still going by. So I could have said last week, man, I'm never gonna do this, or I'm never gonna do that, or whatever, but I still got to this day, thankfully, right? And so if I would have just started doing whatever I was doing from that day on and doing it every day or every other day or whatever, or at least just trying to do something, I probably would have been a lot closer to where I had to be had I just started. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing. And maybe, like I said, I might be rushing through this, but it's just something, I don't want to make these videos too long, but it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot. And lastly, again, tying into that is also, you know, plan ahead, take action, and really, like, be grateful for everything that you have, right? And realize that you do have time. It's like this one video that I saw one time on YouTube, and maybe I should research a little more before I record these so that I actually have valid references to pull from, or where I've seen certain things. But it was this guy kind of talking to this one guy in the audience. It seemed like he was suicidal, and he said something along the lines of, you know, sometimes we are so hard on ourselves for what we think we can accomplish in a year that we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade, something like that, right? And I thought, wow, that is really true. And so that's the thing. You should be grateful for what you have in life, for where you are, because you might think that you're in a really, really, really bad spot. And while that may be the case, it might also not be the case. You might also be more ahead than you think you are, right? Because sometimes just thinking about something or realizing something, especially in terms of your perspective or anything like that, can already put you way ahead of someone or of your own self. Let's say your own self, right? If you still hadn't realized it, right? Sometimes realization is the first step, and then after that, it's to take action, right? To start planning and to take action. So it's, you know, be grateful for what you have and try to just kind of look for the positives and look to see, or probably realize that you're probably more ahead of yourself or more ahead of where you actually think that you are, which is a good thing. Realize that time, again, that you do have time, but at the same time you don't, because if you don't use that time wisely, then it's going to keep going. You're going to keep feeling that pressure of feeling as if you're running out of time. And so that kind of cycle just, you know, repeats perpetually. And then, yeah, you probably are going to feel your entire life that you never had time to do anything. And then before you realize it, you're going to be, you know, 10, 20, 30 years older. And you're going to think, wow, like I really just, like, I think then you'll realize the amount of time that you had but that you just never understood that you actually had in the moment, right? So again, it's be grateful, realize that you have time, but that you also shouldn't waste it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do have time, but you also kind of don't, in a way. And that ties into, you know, taking action. Whatever it is that you want now, if you don't have it, it's either because you probably haven't actually tried to get it, or it might not be the right time, or it takes time, which is the same thing as not being the right time, you know? So, and it might be a reflection of everything that you know. The person that you are today might just not be ready for those things that you're envisioning in the future. However, if you start taking those proactive steps to get there, whereas like, man, I want to be the best, I don't know, the best archer in the world, right? Well, you're not going to get there if you never pick up a bow and arrow and actually try to shoot the thing, you know what I'm saying? Same thing with a firearm, or same thing with driving. If you want to be a good driver, all of these things, if you don't actually take the time to sit down and do it, then yeah, you're probably never going to get there, right? So it's realize that whatever it is that you want to get to, make sure that you actually start not only planning, but actually taking action to head in that direction so that you actually make it happen. Because I used to think, man, let's say by 21, I'm going to be married, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a career, I'm going to have a house and everything. And then let's say I reached 21, right? And then I realized, oh my gosh, like, I don't have any of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any of these things that I thought I would have. But why? Maybe it's not necessarily that I couldn't have accomplished it by that age. Maybe with a different perspective I would have. But it was more so I just never really went out to get it, right? So now the older that I'm getting, I'm realizing, yeah, anything that you genuinely want to have, you have to get it. So if you're not getting it now, or if you don't have it now, it's either because you need to rewire or reinvent who you are today to get to that thing, whether it's to that goal, whether it be, you know, adopting different habits or anything of that nature, right? So that you can hopefully get there. Or again, maybe you're already taking the active steps, but it takes time. A lot of things won't happen overnight. No matter how strong the fertilizer or water or anything or sunlight that you give to like a plant after, or to a seed, right, after you plant it, and you want to grow a sunflower or something, or a tree or anything, no matter what products or anything that you use, you're not gonna make it grow by the next day, right? You can accelerate the process maybe and shorten it by, you know, giving it all the necessary nutrients and everything. Again, take active action, being efficient and everything, using your time wisely. But even then, there's just certain things that you just can't rush, you know, and it will still take time. It might be shorter, but it'll still take time, you know. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. And so again, just to conclude, like I said, be grateful for the things that you have, and maybe the things that you don't have, because some things that we don't have sometimes are good things. You know, you don't want to have toxic people in your life. You don't want to have certain problems or certain, whatever it may be, you know. So be grateful for the things that you have, and also for the things that you don't have. And sometimes the lack of things or the presence of things makes us value different aspects of our lives and different resources that we may have, different circumstances, right? Be mindful of your time. You have more than you think, but in the same way, it can also be less time that you think. It all depends on how you manage it and how you view that time, you know, all on perspective. And then lastly, you know, take action and plan ahead. Make sure that you're grateful for everything that you have while you start realizing the value of your time, your value of your time, and then start taking action and planning ahead towards getting to the spot where you envision yourself being in the future, so that way you actually get there. Because it's like they say, you know, without proper action, dreams stay dreams. You know, you need a plan and you need to take action in order to make it happen. And even then, it might not happen that same way, you know, but you might find something else along the way that might be just as good or even better. Like they say, you know, aim for the moon, so that way even if you miss, you'll still land amongst the stars, you know. So that's all I wanted to say. Excuse me if maybe I didn't explain it the best. I definitely have to maybe structure these a little better, but for now, we'll go with that. And one song that I would recommend for today, I would say, is Kevin's Heart by J. Cole. I heard it the other day with Alexa. I put the autoplay function where it'll play, you'll ask for one song and then she'll start playing songs that are related to that genre or anything. And I don't know, I loved it. I love the beat. I think the lyrics have a pretty good message, and it definitely got me thinking about certain things. So I would recommend that. Again, Kevin's Heart by J. Cole. Have a good one, and stay warm in this weather.